a fabulous day here in Tampa Bay. We've had some cold snaps, but it's warming up. It's going to be at 80 degrees today, so I'm super pumped about that. 80 degrees in the, near the end of February. That's what Florida's about. So we live here, and that's what we want you to visit, spend a bunch of money, and then get the hell out. Oh yeah, and don't bring a car. Rent a car while you're here. We don't need any of you northern drivers on the highway thinking you know how to drive. So we got that. Order an Uber or Lyft. We have Uber and Lyft pretty much everywhere, so not a problem. Anyway, it's just getting it's just continuing to get nuttier and nuttier. We're going to cover three stories today, like we normally do. We cover three stories. Um, One of those stories is that Bernie Sanders continues to double down on his praise for Castro. It just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. And you know what? And for those of you who want to make the academic argument for that, I get it. It's a mistake politically, though, I think, but we'll talk about that. Um, Jim Acosta uh, challenges the president again in India. Will this dude ever learn? And he gets smacked down by the president again in India. Embarrasses him, in my opinion, embarrasses himself and embarrasses his network. And the other story is that one state, can you guess which one, is sort of setting themselves up for some serious Super Tuesday voter fraud. What? How's that possible? They're about to. They're about to do just that. It seems incredible. It seems amazing that anybody would allow themselves, especially in this election during these times, to do this. But one state who's involved in Super Tuesday is setting themselves up to do just that. All right, listen, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back with more of The Morning Report. The Morning Report is a production of Fight Back Media. I'd like to thank my other host, Paul Swanson of The Swanson Report. That's Swanson, Swansen. Swanson. It's Swanson because it's Swedish. At least that's what he tells me. And he's a Swedish guy, I know, so okay. You want to check him out on The Swanson Report? You can go to DuckDuckGo and put in Swanson Report. Subscribe. Send him, send him a few bucks. Buy him a cup of coffee. He's a good guy. He deserves it. He does a great job. And he also is my chief news guy in posting to the Morning Report Facebook page. So you want to check the Morning Report Facebook page out as well. So again, thank you, Paul, for all you do for us and what you do for the Republic. We'll be back with more of the Morning Report right after these messages. Okay, I am doing something because you know what? I'm always doing something, right? This is a video of me doing the morning report on fightbackmedia.com, and I wanted and frankly, we weren't getting the sort of exposure that I think it deserves. So we're going to go ahead and kind of let you in on how what we do. I mean, this is again, it's not fancy schmancy for sure, but the morning report is something that this is morning report 84, and it's something that I think that you on the Urban Game Changer page where I'm putting this, and the Fight Back Media page on YouTube where I'm putting this, and on Facebook just in general where we're putting this is really important. So just sort of hang in. There'll be some moments where I don't seem to be doing anything. It's because we're playing some commercial spots. Thank you ever so much for tuning in, watching. We appreciate it. We're gonna be back in about 53 seconds, and you'll see me basically doing nothing. Thank you again for tuning in to the 84th edition of the Morning Report, a production of Fight Back Media and my friend Paul Swanson. Gotta have some coffee. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the Morning Report, just send me an email at wls860@gmail.com. wls860@gmail.com. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson, and we are glad to have you here. We're glad to have you here. We're glad to have those that are viewing the videotaped production of the Morning Report. We're glad to have you both here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sponsoring. Thanks. We just appreciate you. All right, let's get started. A friend of mine and I were having a conversation yesterday at work about how this 2020 thing is really setting up super easy in our estimation for President Trump and President Trump's re-election bid. What a lot of us didn't have, if we go back, I think, in 2008, and frankly, again, in 2012, even more so, is a clear delineation between presidential candidates. A lot of people really didn't think that Mitt Romney was much different than Barack Obama. As we're finding out, we were right. We really didn't, and a lot of people really didn't think that John McCain, bless the dead, was much different than Barack Obama. And we found out that to be true too. But what we're finding out is that if indeed Bernie Sanders survives and becomes the Democrat Party nominee for President of the United States, there is a crystal clear, razor sharp delineation between Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders' policies and Donald Trump. It's a clear, it just can't be any clearer. You sign up on one side or the other. There is no, it's going to be okay, right? So, and Bernie Sanders, quite frankly, to his credit, is making it easier and easier. Democrat presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, independent my butt, stood by the comments that he made on a 60 Minutes interview that aired Sunday about Fidel Castro regime in Cuba during his CNN town hall on Monday. Now, if you didn't hear that, what basically he said was that when Fidel Castro took office, he started a literacy program. And the reason why the Cuban people didn't rebel and help the United States overthrow Fidel Castro was that he educated their kids and he gave them health care and blah, blah, blah. Not everything was bad. It's sort of the same mentality of when people say, well, at least Hitler made the trains run on time, right? It's kind of crazy. And especially in a place where I live in Florida, where there are still a number of Cuban refugees that don't have much nice to say about Fidel Castro and the Castro regime, especially because it's really soon. When you start talking about a lot of these folks, either themselves or their parents or their grandparents suffered through that change. They were political dissidents that were put in jail and the like. And Sanders sort of said, well, we don't back all that, but literacy programs. Sanders told Anderson Cooper that while he's opposed to Castro's authoritarianism, it's simply unfair to say everything is bad, because he helped improve the country's literacy rates after coming into power. What good is literacy rates if you're isolated from the world and you have nothing else? They have nothing. They had zero. and you locked up everybody. Oh, now you could read, but now I control the stuff that you read. You see how that works? Yeah, I want you to be able to read, but this is what I want you to be able to read. Sanders' comments have been denounced by both Republicans and Democrats, especially here in Florida, where many Cuban refugees and their descendants live. CNN anchor Chris Cuomo asked Sanders for his response to those criticizing his remarks about a regime that regularly imprisoned and killed dissidents. This is what he said. When Castro first came to power, he initiated a major literacy program. There were lots of folks in Cuba at that point that were illiterate, and he formed a literacy brigade that went out and helped people learn to read and write. You know what? I think teaching people to read and write is a good thing, Sanders said. Again, the only problem was that then Castro controlled what people could read, and he controlled what people could write. Sanders continues, I have been extremely consistent and critical of all authoritarian regimes all over the world, including Cuba, including Nicaragua, including Saudi Arabia, including China, including Russia, he continued. I happen to believe in democracy, not authoritarianism. Democracy. There you go. He doesn't believe in a constitutional republic. This is one of the clear delineations that we can look to. He doesn't believe, he didn't mention a constitutional republic. He believes in democracy. And what do we call democracy? Mob rule. The 51 of us, so the 49 of you, are under our thumb. Sounds authoritarian to me. But, China is another example. China is an authoritarian country, becoming more and more authoritarian. But can anyone deny? I mean, facts are clear. They have more people out of extreme poverty than any other country in history. So that is the fact. End of discussion. See, when they start talking about end of discussion, that's nonsense. It's nonsense. They have more people out of poverty. Let's continue the discussion. So why do they have people out of poverty? Because communism works really well? No, they have more people out of poverty because they've adopted something that this man is not talking about. Again, a clear delineation. He's making it easier and easier. China has people out of poverty because they have allowed capitalism to work. They've allowed capitalism to do what capitalism does. And they're creating more millionaires on a daily basis than anybody in the Democrat Party ever has or ever hopes to. That's why. So it's not end of discussion. You can't just end the discussion. I'm not talking about it anymore. No, I'm sorry, Senator Sanders. It's not how things work. I know it's how you wish they work, because the other part of the other part of the story. Thank you, Paul Harvey. Is that China is using a market economy to fund all their stuff, and part of the byproduct is that it is pulling people out of poverty. That's what's pulling people out of poverty. It isn't because China is that they're pulling people out of poverty because they are an authoritarian system or they are doing good things. The good thing they're doing is capitalism. That's the good thing they're doing. The good thing that they have put inside their system is capitalism. Cuomo followed up by asking the Democrats asking about the Democrats who says you can't say positive things about Castro's government because of the overwhelming amount of atrocities they've committed to their own people. So this is what he says. Well, truth is truth. All right? If you want to disagree with me, if someone wants to say that, and by the way, all the Congress people that you mentioned just so happen to be supporting other candidates. But you know the truth is the truth. And that's what happened in the first years of the Castro regime. Yeah, and I just told you why that happened, right? I just told you why that happened. While some Democrats have endorsed other candidates for presidents, others like Representative Donna Shalala, who was the president of the University of Miami, and Debbie Merkel Powell who have yet to endorse anybody. Again, Sanders is making, you know what? Sanders is being Sanders, which is, and I did a video on Fight Back Media 2020 on YouTube. Check that out, please. Check that out, please. And if you want to go to the YouTube channel, go to fightbackmedia.com and click the link to the YouTube channel. That thing will pop right up out of your computer or on your phone like popcorn, like easy popcorn. Please do that. About this very same subject. This is almost going to be too easy. Almost going to be too easy. The Democrats have sort of painted themselves. The DNC has sort of painted themselves in a corner right now. They have got to let this play out. With all the shenanigans of Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Rodham Clinton last year, super delegates, Bernie Sanders winning and getting fewer delegates or getting fewer delegates than he was supposed to get, and was strong-armed out of the nomination last time. They have got to let, for the survival of their own party, they have got to let this play out. I don't think the Democrats believe that they have a candidate that can beat Donald Trump anyway. So in order to save face with their base, they're just going to let this play out. Just going to let Bernie go. Bernie will probably lose to Donald Trump in a fairly large way. And then Democrats will decide that they're going to regroup and become Democrats again. Now, I'm not sure what the hell that means, but I think what they're not thinking is that win or lose, this empowers the AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ivana Presley wing of the party to come into ascendancy. So there's nothing good for Democrats on the horizon. Will Republicans be able to take? Will conservatives be able to take advantage of this times? Not that hopeful. Not that hopeful that conservatives will be able to take advantage of any of this, really. This is a Republican-Democrat thing. This is not, and this is really not, unfortunately, a conservative-progressive thing. Because we haven't really heard from conservatives at this point. We've heard a lot from progressives. We heard a lot from Bernie Sanders. We've heard a lot from AOC. We've heard a lot from Ilhan Omar. We've heard a lot, but we've not heard much from, or not nearly enough, in my opinion, from Tim Scott or Ted Cruz or Jim Jordan or Mike Pence. For conservative causes, not just Republican causes. And the people who are fans of the Morning Report and Fight Back Media know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, take a little break. We'll be back with more of the Morning Report right after these messages. Did you hear me mention the website? Fightbackmedia.com. Fightbackmedia.com. And I did a little shushing up of the website to sort of get all our various things in one place where you can access them. And there's a little box where you can link to the Instagram page, you can link to the Facebook page, you can link to the YouTube page, you can link to this program here on Spreaker. I use Spreaker as a jumping off point. This program is on Spreaker. This program is on Spotify. This program is on iHeartRadio, iHeart.com. So it's pretty much wherever you get podcasts, you can find the Morning Report, Fight Back Media. Unfortunately, I wish I had chosen a better name than Morning Report, but I couldn't choose one that was more appropriate. And a lot of people have chosen the name of this program, so you have to do a little digging around. Not every morning report is this morning report. So again, go to fightbackmedia.com and you can click on the series of links that take you to all our other assets. You can also, if you scroll down, you'll find a player that plays basically all the morning reports and Fightback Media 2020 stuff that we've done since we started on a continuous loop on our continuous network. So you're able to access that too. We appreciate you going to the website, and if you want to contact us, you can contact us through the website as well. That'd be very, very helpful. We really, really appreciate, again, everything that you guys do to help us. Share us with your friends, share us with your enemies, especially your enemies, because that's fun. Welcome back to the Morning Report. Again, my name is Willie Lawson. Again, we appreciate every single thing that you guys do for us. Share us with your friends and share us with your enemies. Share us with everybody that you know. You are the best advertising that we could possibly do. Having the endorsement of your sharing is better than anything. It's better than having the endorsement of a politician or anything like that. I'd much rather have you like me than anybody. All right. Our friend Jim Acosta, actually not my friend, your friend Jim Acosta is at it again. He's at it again. I don't know. As I look at a picture of this dude, I don't know what's up with him. I don't know why he thinks that he's the guy who's going to, I don't know, save us all. As you know, the president was in India this week, and everywhere the president went, that's what it was like. This is what it was like everywhere the president went. That's what it was like. Huge crowd. I mean, India's got a bunch of people, right? Huge crowds. So during the press conference, President Trump and CNN's Jim Acosta had a little testy exchange. And it was over the issue of truthfulness. What? Have we found out? See, this is something that a lot of people on the left will just not admit. Have we found out that CNN has staged stories, has been flat wrong? Now, what we did was we sort of gave them the benefit of the doubt of trying to be there first and just got stuff wrong. They weren't lying, they were just wrong. On more than one occasion. So Jim Acosta first asked the president if he could pledge to the American people that you will not accept any foreign assistance in the upcoming elections. The president answered this. First of all, I want no help from any country. And I haven't been given any help from any country. And if you see what CNN, your wonderful network, said, I guess they apologized in a way they didn't apologize for the fact that they said certain things that weren't true. Tell me. Was it their apology yesterday, or what did they say? Well, here's the deal. I think, and we think at the Morning Report here, that this line of questioning in this particular place was simply inappropriate and unnecessary. And then Acosta says, Mr. President, I think our record on delivering the truth is a lot better than yours sometimes, if you don't mind me saying. So he's intentionally picking a fight with the president. So the president says this, let me tell you about your record. Your record is so bad, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You probably have the worst record in the history of broadcasting. Dang. I'm not ashamed of anything, and our organization is not ashamed, Acosta replied. Then Trump got back to responding to his second question about replacing Joe McGuire as acting director of national intelligence with Richard Grenell, because of course some of the presidents, if it wouldn't matter. And this is kind of the point moving forward. It wouldn't matter who the president placed in that office or did or whatever he does at this point. The Trump haters are going to hate Trump regardless. There will always be something negative about Trump, which is actually making it easier, which is funny, in a lot of ways makes it easier and easier for Trump, and makes it easier and easier for Trump supporters, because it's easy to start just not even considering stuff, just ignoring it. And I just don't think the left and the leftist media get it. It's becoming easier and easier for people who support the president just to ignore just ignore them. Trump supporters don't hate the media anymore. They just don't listen. They just don't care what they say. It is like an petulant child that whines all the time, and the parent just doesn't care what the kid says. Just doesn't care. They're not listening. They're not, people aren't listening to CNN. People aren't listening to MSNBC. People don't care what the New York Times or the Washington. They just don't care anymore. And I think it's because of the lack of reasonableness. Yes, is that a phrase that I coined? Yes, the lack of reasonableness of coverage. The leftist media has been so, and spearheaded by people like Jim Acosta, has been so hypercritical and combative of this president that they don't even do give President Trump the same benefit of the doubt that Bernie Sanders gives Fidel Castro. Everything Trump does is bad. Everything Trump does is bad. Did Fox News do something similar with Barack Obama? To a degree. I mean, to be honest, to a degree. Well, except when they pulled Saddam Hussein out of that rabbit hole. Those things you got to give him credit for. During Trump's administration, Soleimani gets a bullet in his head. One of the worst terrorists in the world. Does he get credit for it? Does he get accolades? Does anybody cheer? No. Immediately, the leftist press, the leftist media, and the left go on the attack against Trump. Not the person who's really the bad guy. Interesting. So I'm not really sure if the left really realizes what they're doing, understands what they're doing. So Trump got back to responding to the question. On March 11th, his time ended anyway. So his time came up. Trump said, so we had to by statute change him anyway. Well, you know what? The guy Joe McGuire was the acting director of the National Intelligence Agency, of the DNI. He wasn't the director. He couldn't stay in that spot by law, so he was going to be replaced anyway. So Trump moved the ambassador of Germany, Richard Grenell, into that position. Here's where I don't understand the leftist LGBTQ LMNOP media could have said this. Richard Grenell is the first openly gay person that we know of, that Trump has appointed to a position of authority that way. Or are they cheering Richard Grenell? He's an openly gay man. Are they cheering Trump? for appointing this openly gay man into this position of power and authority? Nope, not at all. This is exactly why people aren't listening to them. People aren't listening to CNN anymore. People aren't listening. People aren't paying attention. People don't care. People just don't give a crap. They just don't. That's why you're here on the Morning Report. That's why we're growing and they're not. That's why. All right. Let's see. Last story of the day for us. There's a state that's getting ready for Super Tuesday, and they're getting ready to get their fraud on. I'm just saying it. I just got to say it. They're ready. They're getting ready to get their fraud on. There can be no other. I'd love to think it is something different, but it just can't be anything different. And this story comes from townhall.com from my girl Beth Bauman. You know I love myself some Beth Bauman. I've shared a number of her stories here on the Morning Report. She writes, while all eyes were on Nevada caucuses, people in Super Tuesday states started receiving their absentee ballots. In places like California, voters are encouraged to vote absentee. It's been a way to garner greater political involvement and participation. Adam Housley, who was a former correspondent for Fox News, says that he received 2 ballots. What? One for a non-party preference and one for the Libertarian ticket. What makes that more troubling? Housley said he's never registered as a Libertarian. Adam Housley tweets this: Congrats, California, you have sent me 2 ballots. One is a non-party preference, which I have been for 20 years, and one as a Libertarian, which I have never registered. Neither one has many choices other than new taxes, being honest and ripping one up. Makes me wonder, though. So Adam Housley receives 2 ballots. 2 separate ballots. So he could vote, he could, by mail, vote in the non-party preference, and then stuff the ballot by voting as a Libertarian. So if there is, let's say, for instance, House Bill 222, and Adam Housley really wants House Bill 222 to go forward, so he says yes on one and says yes on the other. So now he's voted twice. Now, in a state, and Beth writes this, and this is the reasonableness that, frankly, we're looking for in journalism. In a state with millions of people, a small flub, and there is likely to happen. You know, when you have, California is huge, so a mistake is going to happen. But it turns out that Housley wasn't the only one. Tweets from Napa Valley Chick. I also got 2. When I called the elections office, they said, we're getting lots of calls about that. Mine was because I switched parties, but still. So if she switched parties, I got 2 ballots. 2 ballots. Ann Carrillo tweeted this: I moved to Texas in 2012. 2012, right? 2012. But I still have a home in California. I still get mail-in ballots to vote in California. And if I wasn't an honest person, I could easily vote in both. So this person, Ann Carrillo, who owns a home in Texas and in California, could, by mail, vote in California elections and Texas elections. Now, this happens, and these people don't do this, but if anybody thinks that voter rolls, that the cleaning up of voter rolls is voter suppression, then they just want fraud. This person, a Norwich fan, tweeted, I didn't get 2 ballots, but my party preference was changed from Republican to no preference. Mistakes happen, but what the hell's going on? Scott tweets, my son received two also following a letter which stated they were in error. Received a ballot for my wife who passed away last October. Here we go. I've mentioned this scenario in Florida all the time because this happens, and those people who are just bound and determined to tell me that voter fraud doesn't go on, and again, the cleaning up of voter rolls is tantamount to voter suppression. I have said this scenario. I wanted to get to that one because I've mentioned this scenario countless times. Here's what happens in Florida. Grandma lives in Florida, right? She lives in St. Petersburg. She used to go to the polls all the time. And near the end of her life, she couldn't go to the polls anymore. But she was a devout voter. She believed in it. And so she started getting her ballot sent to her, and she would put it in the mailbox. And that's how she voted. And that's how she voted for the last 10 years of her life. So here's what happened. The election came along. Let's say Grandma died in September. But she gets mailed her ballot in October. Her grandson is now living in her condo because she gave it to him. He is living in her condo, gets the mail, and sees that his grandmother, his dead grandmother's ballot has come. He can still vote. Grandma can still vote. Now, 2 votes probably aren't going to change the course of history, or 1 extra isn't going to change the course of history. But how many times do you need this to happen before it does? Things that are continuing to sort of promote and fester are automatic, and we've said this forever, motor voter stuff. I was never a fan of motor voter and automatic voter registration. When people get a driver's license or an identification card, they are automatically registered to vote unless they opt out. Automatic registration begins when people get their license at 16 years old, but doesn't go into effect until the person is 18. And this is why my own son actually had 2 voter registration cards, because he didn't realize, and we didn't realize, that when he got his driver's license, this is years ago. He's 29 now, so this is years ago, that he actually had 2 voter registration cards. We didn't realize that when he got his license, he got registered to vote. And that didn't go into effect until he was 18. And then when he was in high school and right after high school turned 18, got registered to vote, went down, filled out the paperwork, got registered to vote. So he actually had an opportunity, if he had been voting by mail, to vote twice. That never happened, but he could have. And this push for absentee ballots. Over the last 10 years, there's been a massive push to get voters to utilize absentee ballots. This helps ensure people make a more informed decision, supposedly, and vote at their own convenience. But along with that convenience comes risk. There is no way to verify that the person whose name is on the ballot is the one who actually voted, just like I told you in the grandma and the grandson scenario. There's no way to know. And there's nothing keeping thieves from stealing the ballots out of people's mailboxes. The lack of voter verification. When people show up at the polls, they're not always, in all states, required to show their ID. especially in liberal states like California. The poll worker simply asks for your name and address, and off you go. There's no way for them to verify that you are who you say you are. And that's why people have passed away and are still casting votes from their grave. How does that work? Grandma dies. The granddaughter knows that grandma votes in precinct 101. Now, all that's at precinct 101 is grandma's name and address. Nothing else. Nothing else identifying who grandma. It doesn't say. It doesn't say Susie Grandma, 86 years old, at 1234 Mockingbird Lane. It doesn't say that. It just says Susie Grandma, 1234 Mockingbird Lane. So granddaughter, who got the condo, so the grandson, goes to precinct 101 and says, "Hi, I'm Susie Grandma." Gets a ballot and votes for grandma. And then she goes to her own precinct, where she's Susie granddaughter, and votes again. Is it rampant? It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to happen a million times. It doesn't have to be the dominant thing. It just happens to have happen enough to shade the percentages of elections. And as we get closer and closer to that clear delineation we talked about, it becomes more and more problematical. What's taking place in California really isn't all that surprising. It just reaffirms the idea that voter rolls need to be purged every year or two. People's information needs to be verified, cross-referenced, cross-checked before ballots are sent out, and IDs need to be checked at polling booths. These are simple fixes, but the very ones that Democrats and the left are resistant to. And we need to ask why. All right, we need to get out of here and make room for somebody else. Thank you ever so much for coming to the Morning Report. We appreciate you greatly. We do. I do. All right, until we see you again, go out here and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye now. Thank you ever so much. Listen, check us out on fightbackmedia.com. Check us out on Spreaker, Spotify, Deezer, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out. We appreciate it. Till we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, I'll take care of yourself. We'll see you when we see you. Bye now.